What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 73 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Essential Conan. This is the first 25 issues of the Conan the Barbarian series from Marvel from the 1970s, not to be confused with the series collected by Dark Horse in the Savage Sword of Conan volumes. That's a separate series also from Marvel in the 1970s. This is by mostly by Barry Windsor Smith. I think he does the art on almost all of these, but there are a few different writers who work on this. Roy Thomas wrote most of these, I think. But this series really is, I think, my version of Conan. There are many different versions of Conan out there. There's the movies starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's the novels by Robert E. Howard. There's other novels by people like Robert Jordan. There's the more recent movie starring Jason Momoa. There's the comic books from Dark Horse over the last 15 years or so. Some of them were written by Kurt Busiek. Some were written by other authors. But for me, the true version of Conan, my true version of Conan, is this series. And that's not to say that this series is necessarily superior to any of those other versions, although I would say it's definitely superior to the movies. But I would just say this is what I came to know as the Conan. I watched the movies before I ever read this, but this is so much better. I really love it just because it's a long string of sword and sorcery barbarian comics, and it can't get much better than that. I love barbarian stories. I love sword and sorcery as a genre. But most of the time when I see it, I'll pick up, a modern volume of Conan from Dark Horse Comics or something like that, and then I'll read it in a day, and I'm thinking, okay, that was good, but I want more. And this is great because it's 25 stories, and you get to see Conan going on these unrelated stories, but also occasionally characters that you see like 5 or 6 issues ago, they'll come back into play. So it's a good balance of standalone stories and also arc-based, serialized stories. So that's really cool. I love the artwork here. I would not have thought that Barry Windsor Smith would have been a good choice for Conan the Barbarian, because when I see Barry Windsor Smith's art, he is very artistic. He is the kind of guy who I could almost imagine him just doing paintings and portraits, but instead he does action comic books. And you would really think Conan the Barbarian, you would want someone like Jack Kirby, someone who's very in-your-face and dynamic and action-packed. And that's not really how I would describe Barry Windsor Smith's artwork, but it works so well for this series. It's really good. He really fits this series like a glove, and I wouldn't have thought so, but then you read it and you're thinking, okay, I can see it now. I just can't say a whole lot about this series. There's not a whole lot to say, other than if you are a huge fan of Conan and you want to read this, I would recommend that you do so. I do believe that Dark Horse has done some printings that collect the material that's collected here. There is at least one trade paperback that collects like the first 6 issues that are collected here, so I'm assuming that Dark Horse has done some smaller trades that collect this series, although I don't know how far they collected into this series, but this collects the first 25 issues, so if you're like me, if you have a soft spot for the essential books, which I do, then you might want to try and find this book if you can find it somewhere. Marvel, they don't actually hold the rights to the character of Conan, so this was printed in like the late 90s, very, very early 2000s, and then they didn't just keep it in printing like they did some of their other books in the Essential line, because they didn't have the rights to do more Conan stuff. So this might be even harder to find than some of the other Essential books that you might be looking for or you might have. But I would definitely recommend checking this out. The writing is really solid. It's not especially deep. It is a Conan the Barbarian book, so you're probably not looking for something especially deep, but the art is a masterpiece from beginning to end. You really get to see Barry Windsor Smith where he starts to kind of come into his own as an artist, because you look at some of his very early work, like what he was doing on Daredevil before this, and he's good, but he's not Barry Windsor Smith good. You really get to see him start to be recognizable as the Barry Windsor Smith with this book. So even if you don't care for the writing, if you just want to look at Barry Windsor Smith's beautiful artwork in black and white, definitely look for this book and find it and put it on your shelf. It is highly worth the price of admission, and that is about all that I have to say about Essential Conan. So I will talk to you guys about an entirely different book tomorrow. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.